Hello and welcome everyone to today's training, Setting Up Access Controls. My name is Vivian Lee and I will be your presenter today. Jesse Van Dyne from Pro Services Department will be joining us towards the end of the session today to assist with the Q&A. You have all joined this webinar in listen-only mode, which means that everyone is muted. You will have time at the end of today's session to submit your questions through the chat or question tool on your screen. Today's session will be recorded and a copy of the recording will be uploaded to the support portal. And also, if you missed any of the previous webinars, you may review the recordings there as well. So you would just need to have access to the portal. And we have two locations where you can go in and preview the videos. One is under the forum section, under distributor training discussion. And here you will find the first webinar that we had regarding navigating the AutoCrib support portal. So if you click on that, you will see a link to a video recording of that webinar. And also today's webinar recording will be uploaded here to Webinar Access Controls with today's date. And another location where you can go and preview these webinars is under the Pro Services link. There's a webinars section. And if you scroll down towards the bottom, you will find a link to all previous webinar recordings. And the one from today will be uploaded here as well. So let's begin. We'll go over some housekeeping first. So again, everyone is muted. You will have time at the end of the session today to submit your questions through the question tool. The webinar will run about 40 to 45 minutes, and then you will have another 15 minutes at the end to ask your questions. And as I mentioned earlier, a copy of the recorded webinar sessions will be available on the support portal. So today we are going to learn how to set up employee access controls. Although we are going to be demoing on the AutoCrib 6.1 software, you will also be able to follow similar steps using the .NET website. So access controls provides selective or complete restriction to an item, a set of items, and or a crib to an employee or a group of employees or an entire department. One thing to remember when setting up the access controls is that supervisors override all access controls. So you cannot apply access controls to supervisor employees. So before setting up the access controls, let's take a look at the unlimited access checkbox. And this you will find in the software under Tools, Options, and the Defaults tab at the bottom. The unlimited access checkbox is enabled by default. And this means that employees have unlimited access to items unless they have access controls set up for them in CRIB's access module. When this box is unchecked, employees will not have access to items unless they have access controls set up for them in CRIB's access. So in today's demonstration of setting up the access controls, we are going to use the default setting with the unlimited access checkbox enabled, allowing all employees to have unlimited access. And then we are going to go into the AutoCrib software to set up item and crib restrictions. So first, you are going to need to log into the AutoCrib software. And to set up access controls, we are going to navigate to Cribs and then click the Access button or module. So here you will see 3 sections on the screen. The first one here on the left, top left, is the Select Employees section. So you will have to click the Edit button to make any changes on this screen. So the Select Employee section here provides the ability to select employees or departments where new rules will be applied. So rules created on this screen will only apply to the employee or group of employees that we are going to select in this grid. So the first button we see here is the Select Department. So if I click on it, it opens up a dialog box that will list all the departments that I have set up in the AutoCrib software. Selecting a single department here will insert all employees that are assigned to that department. So if I select Department 102 and click OK, it will default to all the employees that are assigned to that department in the AutoCrib software. So you have to note that in order to use the Select Department, first you need to have departments set up in the AutoCrib software. Next, you need to have employees assigned to those departments before you can use the Select Department button. The Select All button will insert all the employees into the grid box. The Clear All button will clear all the employees or remove them from the grid. The Add button opens a dialog box that will list all employees created within the employee module. And here you can either select one single employee to apply access controls to, or you can also so the employee lookup, the Add button here only allows you to select one employee at a time. So you would click the Add button, select your employee, and click OK, and it will add your employees to the grid. And the Delete button will remove the highlighted employee from the grid. So if you want to remove 0004, click on it, click the Delete button, and then they will be removed from the grid. The next section we have here is Remove Access from Cribs. So here you may select a single or group of cribs and remove access to them for an employee or group of employees. So removing a crib will remove all rights to that station, even if employees have access to items that are assigned to that crib. So again, the rules created will only apply to the employees that we have listed here in the employee selection grid. So if you want to use the remove access from cribs, first you need to check the enabled checkbox, and this will activate the remove access from cribs section. The next button you have on here is the Select All, which will insert all cribs into the grid. So these are all the cribs that you have in your AutoCrib system. The Clear All button will remove all those cribs from the grid. The Add button, here you can, it opens a dialog box that will list all cribs created within the Tool Cribs module. So here you can pick and choose which crib you want to remove access. So you can select one crib at a time. And the Delete button, you will just highlight the crib that you want to delete from your crib and press the Delete button. The third section here is called Select Items, and this will allow quantity and frequency limits to be added to an item or a list of items. So rules created will only apply to the employees that you have listed here in the employee selection grid. So first, you need to enable or check the enabled checkbox, which will activate the Select Items section. The Select All buttons will insert all items into the grid box. The Clear All button will remove all items listed in your grid box. And then the Add button will open a dialog box that will list all items that are created in Inventory Items module. And from there, you can pick and choose which item you want to restrict. I have a lot of items in this database, so once you click on Select All, it will insert all your items into the grid. So if you have a lot of items, this might take a little bit of time. So again, the Clear All button will clear all the items from your grid, and then you can use the Add button here to pick and choose your items. You can use the search box here to search for the item if you have a lot of them. And you can also highlight an item and then hold down the Control key on your keyboard to highlight another item. So you can pick and choose your items from here just by holding down the Control button on your keyboard and then clicking on the items that you want to add to your grid. You can also select a block of items from your grid by using the Shift button on your keyboard. So you will select or highlight the first item and then hold down the Shift key on your keyboard, click the last item on the list, and then click OK, and this will insert all the items that you have highlighted. Now next, you are going to be presented with two fields for those items. The first one is the max. So the max field designates the maximum allowed quantity for the item or group of items that you selected within a designated frequency. And the frequency is designates the total days that a rule will be enforced to the max of the item. So by default, you have max 1 frequency 1, which means that you will be able to issue 1 item per day. So your max is 1 and your frequency is 1. So the frequency is the number of days. One thing to note is that quantities take package quantity into account. So what this means is to allow a user to access 1 pack of 10 per day for an item. In a bin with a package quantity of 10, your max would have to be set for 10 and your frequency to 1. So this will allow them a pack of 10 of that item per day. So once you click OK, this will add the items that you selected to the grid. And here it will show you your your maximum and your frequency. If you want to change those, you can just highlight the item that you want to change the max or frequency to, and on the right-hand side, you can manually edit those fields to show or display whatever max and frequency that you choose. If you want to search for an item, there is a search field here. So if you have a list of items in this grid and you're looking for a particular one, you can use your search field to search for that item. So before we apply the changes, there are two checkboxes at the bottom that you need to be aware of. One is the append. So the append checkbox is checked on by default. And the append will add or modify the existing rules for employees that are listed in the employee grid here. So append will just add or modify. If you select the override checkbox, this will remove all existing rules for the selected employees and replace them with the new rules that you have created here on this screen. So if you want to start all over with your access controls, you can set them up here the way you like them. Select your employees, remove access from cribs, select your items, set your max and frequency, and then when you select override, it will delete all existing access controls and will overwrite them with the new ones. Otherwise, you will use append, and again, this will add or edit existing rules in the system. So once you are satisfied with your selections here, to apply the access controls, you would need to click on the OK button here. And you will notice that once you leave this screen to access another module, for example, if you go to bins and then you return to the access module, you will notice that all the information is removed from the screen. So now the only way to review the access controls that you have applied, we have a report for that under Reports, Standard, Access Category. There's an access control by employee report. So you can preview this report. And I just saved a copy on the desktop because it's quite a large file. Let me see. I can't find it now. Okay. So the access control by employee, I have a lot of data in this database, so it might take a minute or two to pull up the information. But once you create your access controls, again, the only way to preview them is to run this report. Or another option would be to navigate to Database Employees and look at their Access tab. So here's the access control by employee report. So it breaks it down for each employee. It lists all the inaccessible cribs for that employee, and then the list of the item, the max and frequency that was set up for that item, for each item, and then the current and current day. So the current would be the current number of issues for that item. So this will keep track of how many have been issued. And the day would be the number of days since the access controls for that item was reset. So if they're only allowed 1, or let's say 5 for each 7 days, if they had a current of 1, and the current day would be 1 through 7. So if you're on day 1, it'll show 1, and then the next day it'll show 2, the next day it'll show 3, and when it gets to 7, this current day will reset back. So one way, again, is to preview this report, and another way to preview is go to your database, employees, and there's an access tab on the bottom. And this will show you what access controls are set up for each employee. So right now we're looking at employee 0001, and these are the cribs that they are not allowed to access, and all their items, maximum frequency. And again, here we can see the current column and the current day. Now, all of these are editable in this screen. So just by clicking the Edit button, you can click or select an item, and you can actually edit any of these fields. You can edit the max. You can actually edit the current number of items issued, the frequency, and you can reset the day in here all manually. And then once you make your edit, make sure to click OK to save your changes. And then you can use a little arrow button on the top to view the next employee on the list. So here I'm looking at employee 0002. And you can use that arrow to just scroll through each employee's access. And you can make edits and changes directly on this screen for each individual employee. So setting up your access controls, this is just the first step. There are a few additional steps that need to be done in the system before your access controls are actually activated and working. So number 1 is setting up your access controls under Cribs, AutoCrib's access, which is what we just did. Next, you will need to enable this access controls for every crib. So you will have to navigate to Cribs, AutoCribs, and the Detail tab and click Edit and enable access for each crib. And I will show you that in just a minute. You will also need to set up your management station as the master PC. So step number 3 is only if you are using the client server AutoCrib 6.1 software. And number 4, again, is also only for client server software. You need to start the access reset service. So let's take a look at how to do that. First, I'm going to go back to the AutoCrib software. And I'm going to navigate to Cribs, AutoCribs. See, I have a list of cribs here. So I need to enable the access controls for each crib. I'm going to go to the Detail and click Edit. And the checkbox that needs to be enabled in order for access controls to work is the EMP access checkbox. So I'm going to check it here, click OK to save. Now you can use the little scroll button on the top to scroll to your next crib. Click Edit, enable the employee access controls, click OK. Navigate to the next crib, edit, and enable EMP access. So you can have the access controls be enabled only on certain cribs, one crib, all cribs, but you will have to enable it for each crib. So the next step is to verify that your management station is set up as the master PC. So the same computer that is running your access reset service, your auto report service, typically that would be your management station. So you want to go to that computer and verify that it is set up as the master PC. And again, this is only for client server software. So you will navigate to Tools, Options, click Edit. Again, it's under Tools, Options, click Edit, and then here where it says Master Computer, if you don't see anything in here, just click the Master button, and this will change the computer name that you are on to the master computer, and then you click OK. So again, this needs to be done on the management station that's running all the services. And then to make sure that the service is running, you will need to navigate to the Start button. So this is the Start button on your computer. Then you will type Services in the search box, and then select Services to open up the Windows Services menu. And here you will find your Access Reset service. So if the status says Started, just right-click and click on Restart to reset the service once you have set up your access controls. If it's blank, then you just right-click on it and click on Start to start the service. So again, the service by default will run at midnight every day. You can also change that time if you want the access reset to reset at a different time. And you would do that under Tools, Options, and Scheduler tab. So by default, the system will be set up as the access reset time being 12 a.m., which is midnight every day. Again, if you want to change that time, you can click Edit and just change the time to a different time. Otherwise, it will reset at midnight. Okay, so once you have completed all of these things, your employee access should be running and start restricting users from going over their limits. The employee access checkbox that we've seen under Cribs, Tool Cribs, Detail tab, this employee access checkbox also enables the cost limit access controls. So the cost limit is a monthly dollar allowance for the employee. So you can set that limit under Database, Employees, click the Edit button for the employee, and there is a cost limit field in here that you can set up. So for employee 0001, he has a cost limit of $1,000. So if he, once he reaches that cost limit before the end of the month, he will no longer be able to issue out items from the machine until it resets at the beginning of the next month. So again, this cannot be set up on supervisors. Supervisors will overwrite this type of access control as well. The EMP access, so that same checkbox that we saw here at the crib level, the EMP access checkbox also activates the access controls by department, so that when an employee is assigned to a department with access controls, they can inherit the access controls for that department. So this saves time from having to create access controls for each employee in the database. So let's take a look at how to set up employee access using department controls. So again, this EMP access checkbox will activate the access by department also. So to set that up, we are going to navigate to database, and then click on the departments. And there is an access tab at the bottom here for the department. So here, when you add access controls to a department, so here in Department 102, I already have some access controls set up. You can also use the arrow on the top to scroll through your different departments. So here's a department without any access controls, which is Department 103. So to add access controls to this department, I'm going to click on Edit. And again, we see the same screens that we did in the access modules. So here you can use the exclude access from cribs and set up your items with access controls. So I'm going to add crib 02 to Department 103, and I'm going to add this item, test 1, click OK. Going to set my max to 1 and frequency to 7, click OK, and click OK again. So this will save my access controls for Department 103. So any employee that I'm going to assign Department 103 will not have access to crib 02. And for this item here, they will only be able to access one every 7 days. So once I set up my department and the access controls, I now have to assign this department to an employee. So I'm going to go again under Databases, Employees, and I'm going to select employee 0006. I'm going to click the Edit button. And in the department field, I'm going to double click in here. And I'm going to select my department. And click OK. And now when I go to the Access tab for that employee, I see that he automatically inherited the access controls for that department. So now he is excluded from crib 02, and he has limitations on item test 1. So now if there are additional employees that I want to assign to that department, again, I'll just select the employee from my list, click Edit, double-click the department, assign them to the department with the access controls, click OK, click OK again, and then if I navigate to my Access tab for that employee, you see that again they inherited all the access controls from that department. I do want to mention an important note here. So once a department access is modified, so if you decide that you want to change these access controls here, and you go back to your departments, select your department with the access controls, go to the Access tab. If you decide to change any of the access controls, and here's, let's say, add another item. I'm going to add item test 2 and max 5, frequency 30, and click OK. I'm going to click OK to save. So now I added one more item to my list for Department 103. So once I modify it here, just note that the changes will not automatically apply to the employees that are already assigned to this department. So to apply the changes that I've made, I actually would have to go back to those employees. I'm going to click Employees, select the employee, click Edit. Where's employee with my department? So I'm going to click Edit. So if I look in the Access tab, you see that I don't have Test 2 item added here, even though I added that to the department access controls. So I need to go back. I need to click Edit. I need to remove employee 0006 from that department. Click OK. Click Edit again. Double-click the department field. Reselect that same department. Click OK. Click OK to save. So now when I look at the Access tab at the bottom, you see that now the changes that I made to that department access were inherited or re-inherited by the employee. So next we're going to take a look at job access. So the job access enables items to be filtered at the machine's issue screen by the job number. So first, you would need to have jobs set up under Database, Jobs. Then you would select the job that you want to add the job items to. And at the bottom, there is a Job Items tab. You click the Edit button here. Then click the Add button to add selected items to this job. And once you have selected an item, so now when the user selects this job at the machine, the only item that will show up on the list to issue would be the item here that I've assigned to that job. Now here you may assign the quantity of that item, which designates the maximum allowed quantity for the item within the designated frequency. So here you can set up your reset frequency, which is, again, the total days a rule will be enforced until that frequency is reset. Now here it is important that you are aware of the package quantity field. You need to change the pack quantity field to match the package quantity of the item in the bin that it is assigned to. So if you have a same item assigned to bins with different package quantities, you need to make sure here that you select the correct package quantity for the item that you want them to issue out using this job number. And then down at the bottom, you will see the the, here you'll see the quantity issued column. So this is going to be equal to the quantity for the item. So the item can no longer be issued out for that job until the job access is reset. And if you ever need to manually reset the job item, there is a button here, the job reset button. You can press this to reset or manually reset the job frequency or current day or quantity issued. So you can keep issuing out that item. So once you have completed configuring your job items, there are a few additional things that you would need to configure in the software before you can make this work. So first, you need to make sure that the employee access checkbox is selected and the job access checkbox for each crib. So once you hit OK to save, you need to go back to your cribs, tool cribs, select your crib number, edit. So here you see that we also have a job access checkbox. So this will enable the job items or will enable accessing items by the job. So you have to make sure to check the Use Jobs checkbox or job access, sorry. So you need to have both EMP access and job access selected for each crib. Also, under the tool cribs defaults, you want to make sure that the Use Jobs checkbox is enabled. So this will allow the user to double-click the jobs pop-up box at the machine to filter your items for that job. And click OK to save. So the last type of access controls that we're going to look at is the department budget, which will activate validation against a department's monthly budget. So first, you would need to navigate to Database, click on Departments, select your department, click Edit, and you will find a budget field here in the Department Detail tab. Again, this is a monthly budget for the department. So I'm going to enter 5,000, click OK. So you can use the little arrows on the top to scroll through the different departments and add their budgets. Now, once you have configured all the budgets for your department, there is one more thing that you need to do to enable this. Again, under Cribs, Tool Cribs, Detail tab, Edit, there is a department checkbox here that needs to be enabled in order for the department budget to be enabled. And you're going to have to go in and do this for each crib that you want to set up department budgets on. And also, under the Defaults tab for each crib, you want to make sure that you have the Use Departments checkbox enabled. So this will make sure that the user has to select a department at the machine before they can issue out an item. So you need to have your Use Department prompt checkbox enabled. And always click OK to save your changes. So this concludes today's webinar session. So we will now be available to answer any questions that you may have using the question box. So let us know if you have any questions. While you guys are working on your questions, again, a reminder that you can view all the past webinar recordings on the AutoCrib support portal by navigating to the Pro Services menu and click on Webinars.